Our environment is our future. We need to protect it for our children and all future generations. Some of the biggest threats to our environment are from contamination and pollution. The Environment Agency exists to protect our environmental and natural resources. Its powers are widespread, and in 2002 alone they dealt with nearly 30,000 substantiated pollution incidents. In the same year, enforcement action taken by the Environment Agency led to over 1,700 successful charges being brought, with fines reaching a total of £3.65 million, an average to each company of £8,700. By no means a small figure, and one that needs to be drastically reduced. Liquids, if not handled or stored correctly, can become a pollutant. Spills of oil, chemicals, solvents, or even foodstuffs can have a direct impact on the environment. Spills can be caused through accidents, leaks, poor maintenance, bad working practice, bad handling, and inappropriate storage. If liquid spills of any kind are not handled or disposed of in the right way, they have the potential to cause severe damage to the environment and our water resources. Even a small spill has the potential to turn into a major disaster. Consider this. 1 gallon of oil can cover an area of water equivalent to the size of 2 football pitches. 1 pint of oil will pollute 100,000 gallons of drinking water, and 1 litre of solvent is enough to contaminate 100 million litres of drinking water, or the equivalent of 50 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Hard to believe, but 1 litre of milk is enough to remove the entire oxygen content of 10 tons of river water. And how about this? Fruit juice, alcohol, yogurt, and any other organic drink or foodstuff entering water can be up to 1,000 times more destructive than raw sewage. Even in small amounts, these liquids can wipe out whole river populations through oxygen starvation. All of us who work in a process where liquids are stored and used have the extra responsibility to ensure that those liquids are controlled and do not contaminate our environment in any way. The points we need to remember are that spills can cause serious harm to the environment, put employees' health and safety at risk through inhalation of fumes, contamination, slips and falls, and all these could lead to expensive clean-up costs and compensation claims, as well as loss of high-value materials and consequently profits. And if you're found to have broken the law, then you may face large fines or even imprisonment. Add to this bad publicity, and your reputation could receive irreparable damage, which could have a serious effect on your company. Health and safety is the most important reason for spill control. Injuries caused through spills have resulted in very expensive claims against companies. Companies who violate best practice can find that they're refused insurance or their premiums are substantially hiked. Among the laws and regulations governing spills and their disposal are the Water Resources Act 1991, the Environmental Protection Duty of Care Regulations 1991, Protection of Groundwater Regulations 1998, Control of Pollution, Oil Storage Regulations 2001, and the Dangerous Substances and Explosive Atmospheres Regulation 2002. Working to ISO 14000 environmental audit standards and operating best practice principles should ensure that you improve your day-to-day operations and keep you in compliance of the law. The Environmental Agency publishes a series of pollution prevention guidelines laying out best practice in a series of specific applications and a range of industries. In the event of a spill or leak, your risk assessment should have measures in place to deal with it in a safe and controlled manner. There's no corporate defense for pollution incidents. The people responsible are personally liable for prosecution. To keep within the law, you need to consider several factors: site drainage, spill prevention, spill control and equipment, emergency spill response, including the reporting of incidents. Now, let's look at each of them in more detail. There are two types of drains from most sites: surface water drainage that discharges to controlled waters or to an interceptor, and foul water drainage that leads to an effluent treatment plant on site, or more usually direct to the sewer. Each drain is coloured differently. Surface water drains should be coloured blue and foul water drains red. Your company should have an up-to-date site drainage plan. Drains, particularly in older plants, get wrongly connected. If in doubt, ensure you get a site drain survey to ensure that your drains are functioning correctly. Surface water drains should be coloured blue. Storm or rainwater is the main liquid that will flow into these drains, which flow either direct to controlled waters or, with some companies, via an interceptor to controlled waters. Interceptors are used to trap traces of oil before discharge. Interceptors should be regularly checked and emptied. Companies must have consent from the Environment Agency to discharge anything apart from clean water to controlled waters. When cleaning machinery or a vehicle and the drainage is into a surface water drain, you may be creating a pollution problem by using detergents or washing away oil-based liquids. You'll therefore need to move the operation to an area that has drainage for foul water or provide a suitable drain for that work area. Drain covers should be located near to vulnerable drains and deployed where there's a risk of spillage or when a spillage happens. You may wish to consider placing barriers or defense channels between any liquid storage areas and surface water drains. You also need to be aware that liquid spills may be able to permeate into the ground and contaminate surface water, which could also drain into controlled waters. In this case, it's important that a suitable non-permeable surface is present where you handle or store liquids. Foul water drains lead to an on-site effluent treatment plant, or more usually, direct to the public sewer. The drains should be coloured red. You have a duty to ensure that your foul water drains are in good condition and kept unblocked. You need consent from your sewer undertaker to discharge foul water to the sewer. The risk assessment of your operations should help you identify areas that may be vulnerable to leaks or spills. These areas can be bulk liquid storage, drum storage, smaller container storage, liquids in the production process, and liquids used for services. Reducing risk or preventing spills is a requirement of health and safety law and needs planning and careful consideration for your particular type of operation. Most spills or leaks come about when liquids are being transferred from one place to another. Liquid in pipes has the potential to leak at joints and valves, and liquid in drums and containers can leak through damage or bad handling. Let's take a look at bulk storage and how we can prevent leaks. Bulk tanks should sit in a bund, which is effectively a secondary holding area to capture any leaks from the tank itself or spills during loading and discharge. You have to consider the condition and effectiveness of the tank and also the state of repair of the bund. The walls can become damaged and the seal or lining can deteriorate, increasing the risk of leakage. All bunds should be impermeable to oil and water. Bunds need to be inspected regularly and, if necessary, repaired or relined by a specialist company. All bulk tanks must be labelled correctly with the volume of the tank and the contents within. And if they have any pipes or valves outside of the bund, then the seal should be checked regularly for leaks and a drip tray should be placed underneath this area as a precaution. Overfilling of bulk tanks and leaking taps and valves are the most frequent cause of liquid spills. Always ensure there is room in the tank before filling, and the delivery of bulk liquids is always supervised. Joints, seals, taps and gaskets should be regularly inspected. If there's a drain near a bulk delivery point, then drain covers should always be deployed before delivery commences. Valves should always be padlocked to avoid vandalism. External tanks are of course open to the elements, and that means that if bunds are in good condition, then rainwater will collect in the bund. This reduces the holding capacity of the bund. You should therefore have regular inspections of bunds and a system in place for the pumping out of any excessive rainwater. This rainwater may be contaminated by the liquid held in the bulk tank and should be disposed of in the appropriate legal manner. External oil storage of 200 litres or greater must have a secondary containment system, a bund, and it must be able to hold 110% of the capacity of the single largest container being stored, or a minimum of 25% of the aggregate capacity for bunds storing multiple containers. Drums containing liquids can also be stored indoors, and you should consider secondary containment such as drum spill pallets. Drums and liquid containers are particularly vulnerable during handling and transfer. Moving them increases the possibility of damage, and the risk of a spill or a leak becomes greater. Drum dollies can be used to transport containers safely. Equipment is available for drum storage that provides secondary containment, and you may wish to consider these for your needs. Your business may not use drums, but may deal in bulk storage and handling of other liquids. In this case, you may need to store your goods on a pallet that is designed to collect any leakage from damaged goods. Intermediate bulk containers, or IBCs, also require secondary containment. Wherever you store liquids, best practice should be that you have a secondary container to capture any leaks, however they might occur. We've looked at storage outside and inside buildings using bunds, special pallets and safe handling equipment. But what about when you're storing hazardous material outside? These need to be stored in a separate safe area, and this itself should have inbuilt precautions to prevent spills or leaks escaping into the environment. There are safe units available to cover the storage of most hazardous liquids. Wherever liquids are stored, best practice requires availability of drain covers if close to surface water drains. It also requires spill kits to be in place of the right type and absorbent capacity. Your risk assessment is your guideline for implementing controls in the eventuality of any spills or leak in the workplace. The controls will, depending on the liquids you use and are assessing, invariably recommend measures, procedures and equipment best suited to tackling the leak or the spill. In most plants, there's day-to-day cleanup, including housekeeping, and provision for an emergency spill. In a process like this, oils are regularly dispensed from drums as part of the work task, and provision is made to control these types of spills. Older machines can leak, and in many factories and works there are regular spills and leaks that may be partly due to the work process. Easy and on-the-spot provision of effective absorbents allows for efficient operations. Regular cleaning should not be confused with provision for an emergency. Emergency spill kits of the right type and capacity should be deployed, but only used in an emergency. They should be regularly checked against pilferage. There are many products on the market to help you prevent and control spills and leaks. Absorbent socks and pads are immediate, fast, easy to use and cost-effective. It's best practice to place absorbent materials or wipes anywhere in the workplace where liquids are used and spills could happen. If you use materials and equipment that become contaminated themselves, remember that they have to be disposed of in a correct and safe manner. You may need special tools and/or personal protective equipment to clean up liquid spills, and these too will need to be cleaned and disposed of in a correct manner. Remember, prevention is probably the best form of control. Storage and the handling of liquids inside buildings can be approached in much the same way as external storage. You have to consider that it's likely most of your manufacturing processes will take place inside. You'll need to look at these in isolation and decide what is the best way to control any leaks or spills and what measures to put in place in the event of an accident. It may be that a spill kit strategically placed will serve most of the needs for one particular work area. It may mean that you'll need to place absorbents in a suitable place to eliminate risk. Spill kits are available for 3 specific applications. For maintenance absorbency required inside factories and other premises where oil, water-based cutting fluids and mild chemicals may be used. Then there's outside spills, such as oil and water. This spill kit allows you to absorb the oil and not the water. Chemicals, strong acids and alkalis require absorbents that are designed specifically for them. British standards require that these absorbents are coloured yellow. The added problems inside a building can come from things like pipes and ancillary equipment. They need to be included in your risk assessment and controls put in place. Whatever the storage or operation, wherever you work, being observant, vigilant and active towards any problems with spills and leaks is important. Good housekeeping may be just the reaction that's needed, and it's something we should all feel responsible for. Don't ignore what you might consider to be a small problem. It may soon become a bigger one than you think. Best practice requires you to have an emergency spill plan, detailing contact numbers including those of trained first responders. All first responders should have had training involving both classroom and practical training. You also need a guide of how to deal with the liquid being used. In the event of an accidental spill or leak that has the potential to cause harm either to people or the environment, there are clear steps you should take. Assess the situation. Try to assess what the liquid is, the quantity involved, and if anybody's injured. Protect yourself and others by wearing personal protective equipment if necessary in accordance with the material safety data associated with the spilled liquid. Contain the spill. This will buy you time and help you reduce the area of contamination and lessen the impact. Stop the spill. Once the spill has been contained, you can stop the source of the spill. Reassess the situation and make sure the spill is fully under control. Clean up. Using appropriate materials, treat all contaminated material as the liquid spilled. The absorbent takes on the liquid's characteristics and may be needed to be disposed of as special waste. Decontaminate. Ensure all personnel, personal protective clothing and equipment is decontaminated and/or disposed of correctly. Report. Learn from your experience, inform and report to everybody involved in the spill and change procedures if necessary. Make an after-spill analysis. This is vital in helping you identify the cause of the spill and prevent it from happening again. These steps are a guide only, and it may be that your operation may require additional considerations. Again, these should be accounted for in your risk assessment and any spill analysis you may have to make. Spills or leaks can happen at any time and without our prior knowledge or consent. There's no doubt that when you consider the way in which you use or handle liquids, that prevention is better than cure. Your risk assessment should identify the type of liquid being used, whether it's hazardous or has the potential to cause harm, where leaks or spills are likely to occur, what equipment is needed for the control of any spills or leaks, and have in place an emergency action plan. Being vigilant about all your working practices is very important. Being vigilant about health and safety is essential. Spills and leaks can cause harm that you may have never considered. Preventing a simple slip or helping avoid a major disaster is an obligation we all have in our workplace. Reducing or eliminating spills and leaks will make your working environment a better place to be. It will increase the well-being of your staff and productivity. When it comes to spills and leaks, do something about it, and the natural environment will be a better place to live.